everybody, and welcome to Cases from Coronaville. Um, so, when we were first asked if we wanted to do a session, an interstate session at this year's conference, of course, the Central Registry said yes. We love talking about intergovernmental cases. Who doesn't, right? You guys love them. That's why you're here. So we tried to think of something that might be a little fun. And of course, at that time we were still in the grips of, the pandemic. And so what could we do? So we decided to take a little bit of a spin off of the, whole Corona thing, and do cases from Coronaville. Um, Other than the title, it really doesn't have much to do with the pandemic at all. However, we had thought that during the pandemic, we might see a reduction in cases. And in the beginning, we did. We did see a little bit of a drop off, but it kind of, picked back up pretty good, maybe after the first 4 or 5 months. And so we continue to see all kinds of crazy stuff coming in. And so we just thought that we would have a little bit of fun with it, talk about some um, interesting cases, shall we say. There's never a dull moment in intergovernmental. Um, and we're going to do a couple little fun things along the way. Um, so, a couple of things. Um, Again, please make sure your microphones are muted. I think if you want to see a bigger screen, which you may want to do for part of the presentation, I think you can make it full screen. Although seeing me full screen might be kind of scary. Um, but I think you can make it full screen. And I think I've made mine as big as it will go. Um, and yeah, so we'll just kind of go from there. Um, we're going to talk about a few cases. We're going to play a little game along the way. And you want to participate in the game because I'm going to give somebody a $25 Amazon gift card at the end, whoever wins our little trivia game. So pay attention. Although not all the questions for the trivia will be answered during this. So when I was thinking about how to do this, I was like, okay, what can I do that, can kind of be a little bit crazy and a little bit out there? And so going off of the theme, I decided I was going to write you guys a song. Now, I'm not a singer, so I'm not singing, but I did write y'all a little song. I'm going to play it throughout the presentation. And what I did was I put the words that I wrote on the screen to the music, and the music should be very familiar. You could probably guess it already based on the theme, but you can sing the music in your head. You can sing the words in your head as it goes along. In between the verses, we're going to talk about a few cases. We're going to have some trivia questions. And let me preface the case discussions by saying this. So some of the cases that I selected are, they're weird. We get weird stuff in intergovernmental, right? And as I tell my team at the Central Registry, and as I often tell you guys when I talk to you, um, you know, there isn't always, yes, Chris, yours. Um, there isn't always a right answer. So although UIFSA, the regulations, all that stuff is great, and it provides a wonderful framework for us to, try to figure out what we need to do with this. But, there's a lot of stuff that comes in that just doesn't fit within that framework very well, especially given how long UIFSA has been around. And they just didn't foresee some of the stuff that we see, and trying to get it amended and stuff, it takes time. So what I often tell people is there isn't always necessarily a quote unquote right answer. Sometimes there's just the best we can do given the crap that came into us, and trying to figure out what is the best thing to do in this situation, what is the best thing to do for this family in order to get it to where we need it to go. So I want you to kind of keep that in mind as we talk about the cases that we're going to talk about, because I'm not here to give you the answers to these cases. I'm here, what I want to do is have an interactive discussion about what would you do with these cases? Because quite frankly, some of them, they don't they don't have any answers. We really just sometimes kind of make it up as we go along. And so I'm always interested to hear what your ideas are, um, you know, and see what would you do with this case. And sometimes that answer can differ from office to office. So keep that in mind. It's not going to be here's a scenario and there's a right or wrong answer, because there aren't any. All right, everybody ready? All right. So we're going to start off with the song. I'm going to play the first part of the song, and we're going to talk about some cases and have some trivia questions. So I'm going to try to do this screen sharing business. Well, let's see how well it works. And I will play you part of the song that I wrote for you, and I hope y'all like it. So here we go. Okay, can y'all see that okay? And I think, yeah. So you may need to click up here and make it bigger, click the three little dots and make it bigger. Or you may just need to like get rid of me entirely, because you don't really want to see me. You want to see the words on the screen. So make it bigger if you can. And I'm going to start it right now. All right. Because actually most of what we're going to be talking about is going to be from this video, including the question or the case scenarios. So if you can get rid of me from your screen, do it. You don't need to see me for this. All right, here we go. All right. So that was verse number 1. Oh, can you make it louder? I can try to make it louder. Could you guys see it okay? See the words okay? Okay. Let's see if I can make this bigger. It's definitely the other side. You just wait now. Okay. I wonder if I can get rid of myself. I probably can't get rid of myself entirely. Well, Irene, if you sing the Margaritaville song, that's what you need. But I will try to turn it up louder on the next verse. Um, so let's see. So case number 1, can you guys read that okay? I know for me it seems kind of small, but I'll read it just in case you can't see it. So case number 1, Matt and Jenny divorced 5 years ago and had 2 children. Matt is paying $500 a month based on an order from Montana. Matt now lives in Nebraska. Jenny lives in Colorado and applies for child support services. She recently gave birth to a 3rd child conceived during a visit with Matt in Montana. What action would you take? Oh, Emily, I love that. Tell him to go to Montana. Go back there. Go back to Montana, right? All right. So any thoughts? So you can either come off of mute and share what would you do in this case. Of course, you can also put it in the chat if you're more comfortable with that. So what would you guys do with this? All right, Kathy. So register the order and then do an add a child. Kathy, where would you register the order? Where would you register it at? Tori would cry. Yes. Get you one of them margaritas, right? Let's see. Let's see, a suggestion. UFSA to Nebraska to register and add a child modification. Wouldn't we register in our state and then add the child? Let's see. Register in Colorado, open a paternity action in Colorado to send to Nebraska. Chris, we can't add a child to another state's order. Thank you. Yes. That is a common pitfall that we see at the Central Registry. We get a lot of questions about adding, how do I do an add a child if you have another state's order? Let's see. File a UFSA to Nebraska to register and modify the order there. Tell them to go back to Montana. Let's see. Check to see if there's an existing open child support case. Kathy, where at? Kathy Kearns, where would you be checking for that at? What state? Let's see. Send 2 UFSAs, one for paternity, one for enforcement. Check the IRG to see how Montana would handle the situation. Let's see. Send it to Montana or Nebraska. If there's an existing case in Montana and CP isn't receiving TANF, do we even need to be involved? That's a really good question. So, I mean, as you can see, there's lots of different suggestions, right, for what to do with this case. Again, there's not necessarily a right answer. There are sometimes, more than one, there's sometimes more than one option that you can take. And like I said at the beginning of this, sometimes it's just determining what is the best option in this situation, what is the best thing to do for this particular family. So I think one thing I want to point out with a couple of the suggestions, aside from the not being able to add a child to another state's order situation, I think there was a suggestion to register to modify here to add a child. Remember, if you're going to register to modify and you are not the state that originally issued the order, that needs to be done in the state of the non-requesting party. So assuming for a minute here that, okay, Jenny's applied for child support services. She wants a modification. She wants obviously child support for that third child, right? So on her original order, if she's looking at a modification, you would need to send that to where the other party is, and you could not do that here. That's also a very common issue that we have come up with questions and things that we get at the Central Registry. Is a lot of times people forget that little rule for modification. Let's see. So Jenny suggestion: send 2 UFSs to Nebraska, one to register the Montana divorce for 2 kids. And Kathy at the Nebraska Central Registry will want a second one to establish for the new baby. Give her a call. She's super friendly. Jenny, I think that the very last sentence you put there is another thing that I want to kind of highlight in this situation is sometimes you just got to pick up the phone and call the other state or email the other state and have a chat with them. Again, there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer, but what will that state do or what won't they do? And sometimes it's just better to call ahead of time and find that out and have a conversation about it before you go to all the trouble of sending packets, doing up the packets and sending them only to have the other state contact you and say, you know what, we didn't want it this way, or we can't do it this way. We need to do it this way. So communication is one of the things I really like to emphasize in these a little bit more complicated situations. We get calls at the Central Registry a lot of times from other states, in similar situations. Hey, we have this weird factual situation. What do you want us to do with it? So remember, communication is the key. And Jenny, you're absolutely right. Nebraska may want it this way, but if dad all of a sudden decides he's going to move to Kansas, Kansas may want something totally different. So definitely communicate with the other states involved, um, and see what y'all think, kind of together, working together as to what is best. Um, the one other thing that I'm not sure I saw anybody mention, but it is also a possibility. And sometimes this is, uh, sometimes it's easier said than done. Sometimes it's virtually impossible to do. But that is to see if the parties would agree to a state to assume jurisdiction over all this mess, and to take care of it all at once. That's also sometimes worth a try. Um, you never know. You might get Matt to agree for Colorado to have jurisdiction over everything and just do it all there. So I think that's also always worth a shot, because under UIFSA, the parties can agree to any forum state that they want. They don't have to live there. They don't have to, have any ties there necessarily. They can agree to jurisdiction in any state that they want. I mean, normally it's good if somebody lives there, but they could even agree for let's see, where did it start? Montana. They forgot which one it was. They could even agree for Montana, to retain jurisdiction over the whole thing, even though nobody lives there anymore. And that is totally acceptable, and is sometimes a good solution. And Emily, you're right. Matt may want a paternity test. He sure might. But again, you never know. It's sometimes always worth asking those questions to the parties. Um, yes. Okay. Irene, a reminder to turn off cameras and mute your mics. Thank you very much for that. Apparently, pulls too much bandwidth, um, which, if anybody working remotely knows that sometimes that could be problematic. All right. So, any other questions or ideas about case number one? All right. So let me see here. So then we're going to move to our first question. So I'm going to forward this a little bit. All right. So for the trivia questions, oh, what happened here? Hang on one second. My computer just there we go. Totally decided to do what it wanted to do. Hang on just one second. I need to figure out how to reset this. All right. Well, darn it. Darn it, darn it, darn it. All right. Let me close this out and go back in. Sorry about this. My computer just decided to do what it wanted to do instead of what I wanted it to do, which also, of course, never fails when you're trying to do a presentation, right? All right. So we're going to try this. Okay, we're going to try this. The first question may have already been messed up, but we're going to try it. So let's go on your screen. You see a if you've participated in state calls before, a lot of you are probably familiar with Menti. So if you go to menti.com, enter that code there. We're going to see what happens here. All right. Okay, question one. Oh, good. We have people playing. And remember, so with Menti, the faster you answer, the more points you get, right? So multiple choice. The faster you answer, the more points that you get. And at the end, whoever is the winner gets $25 gift card. All right, so we're gonna try this. And yeah, I'm using two computers here. So, all right. I love all the little avatars or whatever you want to call them there. Okay, so press enter. Here we go. So after how many days are EDE documents deleted? 30, 60, 90? Wait, they're deleted? All right. So the correct answer right now is 90 days, and that has been a temporary change on the part of the federal office. Due to COVID, they extended that from 60 days to 90 days, just because they know everybody, maybe not everybody, a lot of people are running a little bit behind on things, taking a little bit longer to get to stuff. With people working remote, maybe you only have somebody in the office a couple days a week or whatever. So they wanted to give people a little bit extra time in order to get those documents pulled down. So the correct answer right now is 90. All right, so let's see. We should have a leaderboard. Where did it go? This worked really well when I tested it last week. And now it's not working so well. Okay, let's try this. All right. We'll get back to that in a minute. All right. Yes, gotta love technology, I swear. We'll see if we can get that figured out. So let's move on to case number 2. All righty. So here's case number 2. This is actually a real life case that one of y'all had. I've changed a little bit of information, not much. So this is a real life case that we've had very recently that we're still working with Arizona. But basically, Marie and Lisa live in Arizona and are not married. Lisa has a child by artificial insemination. We'll get to the really funny thing about that later. The child is born in Arizona and no father is listed on the birth certificate. Lisa moves to Colorado and goes on TANF. Colorado sends a request for establishment to Arizona, but Arizona says there's nothing they can do since Marie and Lisa weren't married. What do you do? Close the case. Let's see. One of the questions. So a lot of times, this is okay. What questions do you need to ask? Did Marie adopt the child? To the best of our knowledge, the answer is no. Marie did not adopt the child. I still like close the case. Kelly would retire. Ha ha ha. Like it. Like it. Like it. Chris, yes, call me. And that's exactly what Chris did because this case came out of Chris Sorensen's county. That's exactly what she did. She called me. And what did I say, Chris? I have no idea what to do with this case. Oh, goodness. Can we? Oh, Irene, thank you for asking that question because now we're going to get to the thing that really made my jaw drop. And something, so I've been in child support. This is my 30th year in child support, and this is something I've never heard in 30 years. Can we pursue paternity against the sperm donor? Well, Chris, yeah, let me check. Maybe you could have, but according to the custodial parent, they bought it online. Yes, you heard me right. They bought it online. And Chris Sorensen, being the kind of, person that she is on these cases, she didn't believe it. And so what did she do? And Chris, this would be, if you did this on your work computer, I'd really like to, see what might come back to haunt you on this. So she Googles if you can buy sperm online. And apparently you can. Who knew, right? So they bought the sperm online completely. Yeah, ooh, gross. I agree. So this has, and I told Chris, I said, Chris, I'm working on finding some cases to use for my session, and I'm going to use this one. So there you have it. So see, sometimes you read this stuff and you think there's no way that that really happened, but yeah, it really does happen. So let's see, what else? Did Marie give emotional support to the child as a parent? That's a good question. Um, self-serve insemination. Well, Gina, I think there was a few jokes going around about a turkey baster, but I don't know. Let's see. Reach out to Marie and find out what her position is regarding the child. Holds herself to be the child's parent. Um, a lot of people do what? Order sperm online, Tori? Is that what you're referring to? That a lot of people do that? Um, I mean, I had no idea you could even do that. Mail order dad. Super concerning, but they're similar to a one night stand, and the CP doesn't know. Good point. I would think that with the artificial insemination, there is a clause for the uninvolved party to not be responsible. Does Marie hold herself out to be the legal parent? Toss that pacer. Oh, yep. It comes up a fair amount on Reddit. Don't these go to court? See, lots of, I would let the court establish paternity. Don't these have to go to court? So yeah, lots of really good suggestions and questions to ask. So what we did was I actually, since Chris called me, I called Arizona. And although the initial conversation I had with Arizona confirmed what Chris had been told, in pushing them a little bit further, they said, well, maybe if you could send us some information that, kind of goes to a couple of people's suggestions about, did Marie hold herself out to be the parent? What kind of was their involvement? Did they have an agreement? What about the paperwork for whoever did the insemination? And so, depending on what kind of information we could provide, they might be able to make a case that, Marie intended to be involved with this child, to be a part of this child's life, to be a parent to this child. And therefore, she shouldn't be able to just walk away, right? And not have any responsibility for bringing this child into the world. So the custodial parent provided some information, some pictures, like pictures of a wedding, pictures of them together holding the picture of the ultrasound, and things like that. So I'm still waiting to hear back from Arizona as to what their determination is as to whether they can go ahead with the case or whether they're still going to say, I'm sorry, there's really nothing that we don't feel we can do anything in this situation because the parties weren't married. So anyway, that is an interesting real life recent case. I will hopefully have a resolution soon. Francis, your question, did Marie and Lisa agree to have a child through AI? That was one of the documents I was hoping that we could get from the custodial parent was what, like whatever paperwork they signed at the clinic. I mean, okay, so I'm assuming they didn't use a turkey baster. I don't know. Maybe they did. I'm assuming they took their bag or box of sperm to the clinic and had it done. Chris says no clinic, no documents. Um, you know, if they had gone to a clinic, maybe they both, put their names on the paperwork. Maybe Marie was listed as an emergency contact or as a partner. That was really the document I was hoping to get, but apparently it doesn't exist. So we kind of have to go with what we got. Let's close this case with an X. Yeah. Um, but she's on TANF. So we, I don't know. Maybe ultimately we'll get to that point. But we're going to push Arizona a little hard, I think, to try to go forward with establishing an order against Marie. So I was a little curious. So this is kind of like, this is a case going out, right, to another state with this situation. But to be real honest with you, I don't even know what we would do. So what if we got that case in? What if it was the reverse? And the child was born here, and the other parent, not the birth mother, but the other partner is living in Colorado, and we get that case in here. What would we do with that? Would we be like Arizona and say there's nothing we can do, or do we have sufficient laws in Colorado to cover this situation? Like I said, I'll be honest, and I don't really know the answer to that. I know states are all over the place with when it comes to same-sex couples and these kinds of issues, and I think the laws haven't always kept up with kind of society and where we are with this stuff, which kind of leaves us holding the bag. So let's see, I received one that was similar, two parents, one each had a child, one parent here on TANF. The county decided to, oh, you reviewed one. Oh God, not received. I was gonna say, Emily, are you working cases? So Emily reviewed one that was similar, and the county decided to close the case. Let's see. Definitely would be judicial for sure. So Jenny says we've had success in Arapahoe County with an order for a psychological parent to pay support. And Chris Sorensen, I don't remember how old the child was in this case. If it was still fairly small, or if, and I don't know if the age of the child matters, but, I'm thinking like for an infant, is there really like a psychological parent to an infant who really doesn't know the difference? So Chris as a child was fairly young. So, I suppose that might kind of be from, Marie's standpoint, saying, the child is 9 months old. They don't even know, all they care about is that somebody feeds them and changes them, right? They don't really recognize someone as the role that we say as a parent. So Guadalupe, we can, since we recognize same-sex marriages in Colorado. Yeah, but remember, these girls weren't married. Does that matter here in Colorado? I don't know. I mean, frankly, I think if they had been married, this would have been a lot easier, right? But they were never married. So I don't know if that matters here. Lisa should file for divorce, a common law, at which time support and parental responsibilities can be addressed. So yeah, so I believe Colorado still recognizes common law marriage. I believe, but I don't know if Arizona does. That might be a good question to ask of Arizona. Chris, maybe write that down for me. Let's see. Kathy, we have a similar one in Adams, but both are listed on the birth certificate as mothers. It's going to court soon. Again, that would make it a little bit easier, right? If they're both listed on the birth certificate, that kind of indicates an intention for what they intended. But again, that's not what we have in this situation. Psychological versus legal has always been an area of contention. Yeah. Kathy, let us know how that works out. If they filed taxes together, maybe could be construed as common law marriage. That's a good point. File an APR. All right. So those are all really great ideas and suggestions, questions. Again, sometimes it's just kind of thinking, what are the questions that I need to ask in this particular case to try to get the information that I need in order to make a decision. And so, yeah, this was really kind of a different case. It was, when Chris called me about this, I was like, oh, I love these kind of cases, right? This is why yeah, poor judges who get to rule on these things. Um, Sometimes I think it might be fun to be a judge, though, to get to rule on these things, Albert. So, um, sometimes I think judges get it wrong. So we could do a better job, I think, sometimes. All right. Um, so anything else on case number 2? I am trying to figure this out here. All right. Okay, so I don't know if I've totally got the problem figured out with the game, but I kind of sort of I think maybe do. Um, so it looks like the person in the lead is Kelly with an I, and there's something written under her name, but I can't read it right now. Let me see. Kelly, what does that say under your name? Oh, so Kelly with an I, with the little fire, um, little fire avatar. All right. So we are going to go to the next trivia question. So again, go to menti.com. And maybe you should already be there. It really does not like me doing it that way. All right, so we're going to cheat a little bit. All right. Question 2. Remember, the faster you answer, the more points you get. What year was the most recent version of UFSA adopted? 1992, 1996, 2008, or 2015? All right, time is up. 2008 is the correct answer. First version was in 1992, second version 1996. And although it would be nice if we had an updated version like in 2015 or some such a thing as that, because it's been now 13 years since the last revision. Unfortunately, 2008 is the last version. All right. So let me see. So in the lead, I think we now have, let's see, nope, that was that question. Tori. Tori is now in the lead with 1,878 points, followed by Kelly with a Y, and Kate M is in third place. All right. Let's see. We had some stuff going on in chat here. Da, 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 da. Yep. Okay. Awesome. So that's 2 cases done, 2 questions down, and now we're gonna hear a little bit more of the song. And I'm gonna turn it up here. So I've got my computer turned all the way up. So hopefully that'll help some of you be able to hear it a little bit better. But like I said, just play Margaritaville in your mind if you can't hear the music and read along with the words. So here we go. All right. Was that better? Could you hear it a little bit better? All right. Didn't that sound familiar to everybody? Right? Right? I tell you what, I can think of the weirdest things. Okay, so maybe this is TMI. I don't know, but I can think of the weirdest things like in the shower, and so that's what. So some of these lyrics came to me was when I was in the shower. Maybe it's because you don't really have anything else to do with it, right? So anyway, um, it was really a lot of fun to write, and we got one more verse coming up. Um, but so now we're going to go on to case number 3. In 2007, Wanda and Tim were divorced in Colorado, and Tim was ordered to pay $500 a month in support. In 2008, the child went to live with Tim in Texas. In 2013, the Colorado court found Wanda did not have any income and did not enter a support order against her because they were having some, like custody issues, and they did it under the original Colorado order. In 2021, the child went to live with Wanda in Washington. Washington calls the Central Registry and wants to know how to proceed. They want to know, should they send a request to Texas to register and modify the Colorado order, or should they just establish a new order for Tim to pay Wanda? So what would you tell them? And what questions do you need to ask in this situation? So let's see. Kelly, send to Texas for a mod. Monica, did they ever modify the original order to 0 when the child was living with Tim? That, I think, is the $1 million question, as I found out as I was investigating this case a little bit. And so the answer to your question, Monica, is no, they did not. They never said anything about support at all in the 2013 order, other than that mom didn't have to pay support. That's all that the court said about support. They didn't say anything about Tim's support obligation. See, Irene, send to Texas since it's a non-requester state and neither party lives here. If Colorado issued the most recent order, it would have jurisdiction to modify. Was mom's support order 0? The way that the court worded it for mom was, it said, the court finds that mom does not have any income at this time and therefore enters no support order. That was the language. So it didn't say mom's support was $0. It says the court does not enter an order of support. So I would think that means that there's no support order against mom as opposed to a 0 order against mom, right? Yes, I hate those weird worded orders too. That's why I said we could do a better job of entering these orders, I think, than a lot of judges can, because they don't understand, like, when they do this vague stuff, how many problems it creates for us, right? So I'm hearing some background noise. So can y'all please just make sure that you're on mute if you're not going to speak, but I kind of hear like some background noise, like some banging around or something. Thank you. No new order can be entered, must be registered for mod in state of non-requesting party. Depends if the Colorado order was silent, then it would be a mod, which you said that the court addressed with that language, it would be a 0 order. So Donna, I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So when the court says mom has no income, the court therefore enters no order of support. Would you consider that as a quote unquote a $0 order, or that there is no support order against mom? It would be better if it was more clearly worded, for sure. The fact that it went to court in Colorado would tend to make one think Colorado had jurisdiction. Remember, nobody lives here, right? Tim's in Texas and Wanda's in Colorado. So there's nobody in Colorado anymore. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean Colorado can't have jurisdiction, right? That kind of depends on, what you think needs to happen as to whether or not Colorado still has jurisdiction. Of course, the parties could agree to allow Colorado to retain jurisdiction if it's determined that Colorado no longer has exclusive jurisdiction. Um, but nobody lives in Colorado. They're just calling us, again, so it's kind of like what we talked about earlier, that when you get these weird situations, sometimes it's best to call the other state and have a conversation about, what do you guys think? What would you do? What do you think your courts would do? And so this is one of those situations where Washington called us to do exactly that. Well, we got this mess. What do you guys think we should do? Based on the fact that the original order's out of Colorado, because and not necessarily this case, right? But sometimes you get, does the order follow the child? And, what about a caretaker relative? What does your state do? And what about a change of payee? And what about this? What about this? What about this? Because everybody does it different. Um, so let's see what else. What else people got? Yeah, did not enter a support order against Hermina Zero order. Yeah, Francis, I, you know, I think people could have different interpretations. I know how I would interpret it. It doesn't, and I would interpret it to be that there is no support order, that it's there. It's not a zero order. There is no support order. But I also think, based on the wording, people could interpret that differently and say, no, the court meant that it's a zero order. I don't know. Um, let's see, send a request to Texas to register and modify the Colorado order and request they address the arrears in the mod process. Um, Zero order. So it looks like some people agree it was a zero order. Emily, that's a really good question, Emily. Why did it take 5 years for mom and dad to address the role reversal in court? Who knows, right? Who knows why sometimes people do the things that they do? Um, Colorado child support has never been involved in this case. I'll just, so there's another little twisty fact there. We've never had anything to do with this case. It was all done by private attorneys. Um, and, it could be that initially they agreed for this to happen. And of course, a lot of times the parties don't think about what that means with regards to their child support order, right? And then maybe there was some kind of disagreement about, mom wanting the child back. Um, and so that they had to go to court to litigate it because maybe dad didn't want to give the child back. Who knows? Um, these, a lot of times people can make a bigger mess out of their case than it should have been because they don't know, they don't understand, and a lot of times private attorneys don't help the matter any. They actually make it worse. Let's see. Let's see. Ask the Colorado to vacate the order and establish a new order against dad in Texas. If dad's order was not abated, his order of $500 would still be active. That was the general advice that I was given in this situation because dad's order was never terminated in that 2013 action, that his order should still be in effect now that mom has the child back. So that's the advice I was given regarding this type of a situation. So that there is an order, there's a $500 a month order for Tim to pay Wanda, and that is still in effect. I think somebody said to let's see, do something about that and address any arrears. Um, let's see. If court said no support order, that would void the original order against Tim as well. we could provide Washington with all the Colorado orders and pay records, and they could send it to register in Texas to request a mod. So, Candace, that's an interesting way of looking at the 2013 action. Um, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but again, like I said, people can interpret things different ways. And so during the 2013 action, the court definitely acknowledges the fact that the child is with dad, but they also, they don't say anything about his support obligation. They don't terminate it. They just don't enter one against mom. So, um, looks like maybe could there be room to interpret that as that terminated his order at that time, which means there is no support order in effect at this time. In which case you could potentially get a new one. Would ask Colorado to vacate the order and establish a new order. Let's see, Joy, can't vacate a divorce order. Why would you vacate an order to get a new one? I agree. Um, Usually, you only vacate the second order, right? Not the original order. So if somebody enters an order inappropriately, when they do not have jurisdiction to do so, you would ask them to vacate that order. Ask the judge for a clarification. Gina, that's one of my favorites. Um, I think sometimes you just have to have that conversation. The only thing might be that it's 2013. I don't know. Maybe the judge isn't there anymore. There's always that possibility. Um, yeah, Emily said the same thing. Get clarification. I always, when of course, it's been many years ago since I actually was a 4D attorney and not in Colorado, but I always liked having conversations with my magistrate about, on these kinds of things. What the heck did you mean when you said this? It does, somebody says it's this, I say it's this, somebody else thinks it's a third way. What did you mean? And hopefully you can have a good enough, or your attorneys can have a good enough relationship with the magistrate or with the court in order to get those clarifications, because sometimes they're needed. See, file a motion for clarification, go from there. The original order is out of Colorado. It doesn't look like it was ever modified. Do we know if FOC still lives in Texas? Was it modified there? Nothing has happened in Texas. That's, let's see. Heck, we've had cases where parents live apart and haven't gotten a divorce for 15 years with new kids. Yep. Custody changes. Who knows why people wait to take actions? If they ignore it, it will go away. Yes. I think lots of times the judges, magistrates say no support when they really mean a zero support order, and hopefully a reason for deviation is included in an order. Yeah, I mean, again, it would have been nice to have that clarity, but unfortunately, we didn't. It's just says what it says. So, all right. Um, Again, really great discussion. Lots of ideas, lots of things that you could do, lots of questions you can ask. Shawnee says even if a zero order was established against mom, dad's order was not terminated. And that is true. Dad's order was not terminated. So what does that mean? What does that mean in Colorado from a legal perspective? Does the order have to be specifically terminated by the court, or does it just kind of, sit there and it wasn't enforced, obviously, while dad had the kids, and mom wasn't claiming arrears for that time period. Uh, so it just kind of maybe sits there. So those are all really great questions. And again, this is a real live case that we've had in the Central Registry recently. A phone call that we got from Texas. Again, there's no 4D case on this case. Child support was never involved. It was all done privately. But now, so we are, the contact point for those other states, just like they are for us, when these kinds of questions come up. We do try to work collaboratively, with each other in order to get these things resolved. All right, so let us go to question number 3. All right, here we go. Everybody ready? Everybody in Minty? All right, question 3. How much time do I have?
I'll let you know when you're 15 minutes.
Okay, I think I have a half an hour. All right. I am waiting for people, it says. Maybe you're all already in there. Are y'all in there? All right, we're going to try it and
Yeah.
see. Okay, all right. Usually it shows me like all those avatars on the screen, but now I don't see any. So, all right. How many days do you have to initiate a case on ACES? 20, 23, 30, or 45? Time's up. All right. 20. 20 days is the correct answer. Most of you got that right. So when you get a case, you've got 20 days to get that puppy initiated on ACES. Let's see. It's really hard to see in sunglasses. I probably should take them off. Let's see who our leader is now. Tori is still in the lead with 2,033 points. Or maybe that's a 28. No, it's 2833. Kelly with a Y, 2823. And Kristen has 2755. All right. Good job, guys. All right. Question or case number 4. There is a Missouri child support order for Kevin to pay Kendra $800 a month for their 3 children. Kendra still lives in Missouri. Kevin moves to Colorado for enforcement. Easy peasy, right? UFSO 101. Then Kevin begins collecting both SSI and SSD. Colorado wants to close their case under federal case closure criteria number 9, which allows case closure when the NCP's sole income is SSI and SSD. Sorry, that word IN should not be there, the N. However, this is not one of the case closure criteria adopted by Missouri, so they want the case to remain open. What can or should be done? Let's see. Close for non-enforceable. Enforce as much as we can. Can we send it back to them for enforcement? Missouri can take over enforcement of their own order through SSA. That is true, Irene. They can, but let's say they don't want to. Who knows why? Let's see, Suzanne. I don't think we can close a case if SSDI is being collected as well. Chris agrees with Irene to send it. That Missouri, I think that was the Missouri can. Missouri can enforce it themselves. Yes. Good luck, Missouri. You're on your own. Good, Jenny. Send it back to Missouri. Ask for a mod. Close and have the other state enforce their own order. SSDI is collectible. Yes. Why do we get, let's see, where'd that go? Why do we get cases when states can issue their own wage assignment with the SSA? Don't know. We do, though. Send IA to SSA to collect after modification to minimum amount is done. Well, but the order is out of Missouri, Shawnee, and let's see, Kendra is still there. So we would not be able to modify Missouri's order. right? Because somebody is still in the order state. But we could let them know that they should, and ask them to modify. We could. If SSI and SSD is being collected, we still close for unenforceable. Register and modify in Colorado, and if enforced using SSDI income if there is an amount. Again, we don't have jurisdiction to modify, okay, because somebody still lives in the order state. And so Missouri still has CEJ over their own order. Closure if SSDI is the only source of income. In this case, they're collecting both, right? So we can collect. Some people might think this is a little bit of a trick question. It's not really, but it does highlight a very important point about case closure. So this is a responding case. We registered the order for enforcement for Missouri. And although, well, let me say it this way. So there, a few years ago, the feds gave us this reason to use in order to close cases under certain circumstances with SSI and SSD. There are 21 total reasons why a 4D case can be closed. Only 3 of them, though, can be used on a responding case. And this is an issue that we see a lot at the Central Registry. It's also an issue Emily sees a lot in her QA reviews, where interstate responding cases are being closed inappropriately and or for the wrong reasons. So an interstate responding case can only be closed for one of 3 reasons. The initiating state tells you they don't need you anymore. And ideally, that would be this case, right? That Missouri recognizes the fact that they could do this on their own, and they say, you know what? We don't need you anymore. You can close your responding case. We don't need your help anymore. We'll take it from here. That would be ideal. The second reason is if the initiating state tells you they've closed their case. Maybe Missouri says, you know what? We decided we're going to close this case because we're not going to enforce this with the SSI situation. And so we've closed our case, therefore you can close your case. That's the second reason. Third reason is the one that most people like to use, and that is basically the non-cooperation of the initiating state. When you ask the initiating state to provide you with some piece of information or a document that you need in order to move the case forward, and they fail to do so. Let's say on a paternity establishment, they didn't send you the birth certificate. And you're like, oh, I need the birth certificate. I need the birth certificate. I need the birth certificate. 3 months later, I need the birth certificate. Okay, fine. I'm going to start case closure because you haven't sent me what I needed in order to establish paternity. Those are the only 3 reasons why you can close a responding case. You cannot close a responding case because the NCP, even if he's just getting SSI, let's just change the fact pattern slightly and say the only income the NCP has is SSI. In Colorado, we would close it if it's an in-state case, right? But you could. Remember, case closure is not mandatory. It is permissive. It is not required that you close a case for anyone. Most of the reasons. If the initiating state tells you to close your case, you have to close your case. But just because the NCP is getting SSI, Missouri doesn't have to close their case if they don't want to. Maybe they think he's going to get an inheritance or something. I don't know. But they don't have to close the case. They can, but it's not required. However, since it's a responding state or responding case in Colorado, you cannot close it for the same reason. You can only close it for one of those 3 reasons. Therefore, unless Missouri tells you you can close it or they meet the non-cooperation requirement, you can't close it. And just to be clear, you can contact Missouri and ask them for permission to close your case, okay? Because it makes sense. But if they don't give it, that is not a basis for non-cooperation, okay? And we see that a lot. Well, I asked them if I could close my case, and they didn't respond, so I closed it for non-cooperation. No, no, no. That is not what non-cooperation means. Non-cooperation means that they fail to provide you with information or documentation that you need in order to move the case forward. Refusing to allow you to close it is not non-cooperation on the part of the initiating state. And I think, Emily can testify during that during, QA reviews, we see a lot of cases being closed for those kinds of wonky reasons when they shouldn't be. Um, Jenny, I wish other states follow the rules. They close our cases all the time. You know what? If you run across those, let me know, and we could reach out to those other states, because believe me, I get states who reach out to me when their cases get closed here inappropriately. They reach out to me, and I reach out to you. So if you have situations where that's happening, let me know, and let's get it sorted out. Um, Kelly, I have had other states close our cases non-co-op as I couldn't provide a verified Colorado address. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I will tell you, at the Central Registry, um, we, in some cases, we do that as well. But I will tell you that technically we're not supposed to, because actually providing a verified address is not a requirement under UFSA or under the regulations for an interstate case. That's a different conversation for a different day, because we could spend a whole session on that. So let's see. Um, um, uh, I've been involved in a couple of them, and so far the feds are pretty reluctant. Um, but just know that there is an effort underway, and a push by a group of states to try um, to get some changes made to case closure on interstate cases. But until that happens, remember, you only got 3 reasons um, for which you can close a responding case. And if you ever have any questions about that, don't hesitate to reach out to us at the Central Registry, and we can help walk you through that. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so maybe next year's session, maybe we'll try to do like interstate case closure, because again, we could spend a whole session on interstate case kind of a thing. So I think that might be a good one to do. Let's see, April's question. Initiating state issues an IWO after it sends its case to us. They receive payments from that IWO. Colorado asks them to terminate their IWO. Numerous requests, grounds for non-co-op closure. Technically, probably not. Probably really not non-cooperation, because you got to read the rest of that reason. And again, it's that they're failing to. It's really not non-co-op. We use that as a shorthand, because the real reason is too long to have to say all the time. But it's really the initiating state fails to provide you with information that's needed to move the case forward. That's technically what the reason says. Um, Unfortunately, I don't have my regulation book here with me, and I can never find this one. There is another provision related to income withholding orders, so that 2 states are not withholding. But I think it is, I think it's the initiating state would tell you to stop your income withholding order, um, and then you would have to do that. But don't I don't want to say for sure, because I don't have my regulation book here, and it always confuses me. But there is a little bit of a 4th reason when it comes to income withholding orders, but it's very, very specific when it can be used. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and move us forward, just because I know we're kind of running out of time here a little bit. We got one more verse, a couple more trivia questions, and one more case. So let's go to, oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. You guys see that spinning wheel?
Yep.
Ugh, that's not good. All right. So go ahead and go. Let's go to Minty. Y'all should all have the code. It's the same code as before if you need it. So y'all should get this one right because we just talked about it. All right. Here we go. This is question 4. Interstate cases can be closed just like in-state cases. True or false? Time is up. False. False, false, false. Interstate. So for in-state cases, you got 21 reasons, almost like Baskin Robbins, right? You got 21 flavors to close an in-state case. But an interstate case can only be closed for one of 3 reasons. All right. This is going to totally bum me out here. All right. Okay. Maybe it's back here. Got to get it back. All right. I had to restart the video. Let's see. Oh, that's not right. Sorry. I got to go backwards in the video. All right. Let me catch it up here. All right. So let's see who is ahead now. And then we only got one more question left. All right. Leaderboard is still the same. Tori, man, you are on it. So Tori is in first place. Kelly with a Y, and Kristen is still in third place. All right. I think there's only 7 points. Yes. No. 17 points between Tori and Kelly. So it's close. All right. We're going to go to the last verse here of the song, and then we're going to go to the case that I saved for the end. So I had to stop sharing my screen here for a second in order to get it back. So, all right, here we go.
Hey, Daphne, I just wanted to make sure you saw that your 15 minutes
I did. Yes.
countdown
Thank
was.
you.
I didn't want to interrupt the video.
No, that's all right. I appreciate that. All right. So that's the end of my song. Hope you enjoyed it. So case number 5. And there's a New York order for Paul, and I swiped this scenario from an Arixa session, and I saved this till the end. Um, just because I thought this was like just total, yeah. New York order for Paul to pay Pamela 600 a month for 3 children. Paul moves to Colorado and applies for services as he has custody of 1 child. Paul wants support from Pamela, plus cancellation of all the prior arrears from the time that he's had the child. Paul also mentions that Pamela's mother has custody of child number 2. They live in Iowa. Oh, and by the way, the 3rd child is in a foster care facility in Texas. What do you do? Retire is not the answer. Drink. uh, yep. Let's see. I hate margaritas, but I take a mojito. I don't really like margaritas either, but um, let's see. Go to court. Time to take a vacation. Is the order a flat/fixed rate per child? That's a really good question. So I think that's one of the questions you need to find out. That's one of the questions you need to ask, right? That might be important in determining what to do on this case. Um, Tell my supervisor. She is it. Yep. Is Pamela still in New York? That's a good question. Um, so what difference does it make if she's in New York or not? Who can tell me why does that make a difference? What a mess. Yes, Kelly, it is a mess. Poor kids. Irene, yeah, where does mom live now? Lots of information still needs to be found out. Um, but sometimes this is what you get, right? When a case is first presented to you, or uh, sometimes this is what we at the Central Registry get. So I love the fact, Gina, that you said there's still lots of information that needs to be found out. Because a lot of times what happens is you guys may send us an email, right? Well, say with this kind of fact situation. But as Gina says, there's lots of information that still needs to be found out. So what we're going to do at the Central Registry is we're going to start asking you those questions, or we're going to ask you to find out that information. And so part of it is, understanding why we're asking you those questions. As we're reading this, yeah, that would be my question. Where's mom? And so we're going to have to ask you, we need to know where mom is. Um, sometimes, sometimes we get a little pushback that says, well, why do you need to know that? Or I don't know. Why do you need to know? Why does it matter? Um, in a case like this, where mom is, it may matter a lot, right? Because if she's still in New York, that could make a difference as to oppose if she's somewhere else. When it comes to, if modifications need to be made to this order or something, where mom is can be important. So just understand and realize that if we ask you questions back, we're not doing it to be difficult. We're doing it because we feel we need the information in order to help you with your question, right? It's also like when you're sending us these kinds of fact situations, think about what questions would you have if you, so if you type up an email like this, before you hit send, say, okay, what did I leave out? Are there, if I just got this, would I have other questions about this case? Because the more information you can provide to us initially, the quicker we can get you, a response. If we have to keep going back and forth with, oh, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this, it's just going to delay it. So try to include as much information about the case, about the parties, where they are, where the kids, where's the order from, as you can, because all of that makes a difference. So Gina, thank you so much for pointing that out. Let's see. Why didn't Paul take the other 2 kids? I don't know. It would have been a lot easier if he had, right, Emily? Yeah, mom doesn't have any of the kids, but Pamela's mother has one of the children. Has Pamela's mother been getting support for the child she has? I don't know. Again, that's a good question. Maybe it's something we need to find out. And so now we also have multiple obligees. Yes. Check quick to see if you can find any open cases for the children. That is a great suggestion, Kelly. Remember, Quick is your friend. You can find a lot of information on Quick if there are orders out there um, um, that these parties might have. And the parties aren't always forthcoming with information. Most of the time, I don't think it's intentional. Most of the time, they just don't see why it's relevant, or they don't understand the importance of it. And so you need to ask those questions, and make sure you get as much information as you can, or check Quick, because I said so. Yeah, how long has all this been going on? I had a case where we gave NCP credit for time he had custody after he provided documentation, but there was only one child on the case. If the 3 kids were split up at different times, crediting arrears is going to be a nightmare. You're absolutely right. It is. Um, and that's what makes intergovernmental cases so much fun, right? Let's see, if Pamela still resides in New York, New York will have CEJ. Yep. How did the 3rd child get to Texas? Would that mean mom moved to Texas? Good question. I don't know how the child got to Texas. Maybe mom was there. Maybe she's not now. Maybe she is. That's a great question, and something that you need to find out, right? You need to ask those questions. And yeah, mom could have moved back to New York by now. So part of the point, there's a couple points to this particular case scenario. One is it's a case from hell, right? You hope you never see a case like this come across your desk, because this is going to be a nightmare. But secondly, there's a lot of information missing from this fact scenario that you need to find out. And so part of the point of it is to just kind of to highlight that you need to get as many facts as you can, especially when you're asking for assistance from the central registry. And that's why we may ask you some follow-up questions. Um, if mom is in New York, New York has CEJ. Would the state be able to modify? Let's see. The order, if mom's not in New York and dad is in Colorado, it would be the non-requesting party state that would do the modification. This might also be a case what's worth a phone call to Texas and Iowa, right? To have a conversation. Maybe you get both of them on the phone at the same time, so you all can have a conversation about what to do with this mess. And again, I don't know that there is a right answer. There's what is the best thing that we can come up with that makes the most sense given this fact situation and what's best for the family. One order is always best. And if you can get that, great. If you can't, what is the next best thing? And where does it make the most sense for this case to be, and can you get the parties to agree to it? Don't be afraid to ask parties to agree to jurisdiction. Don't be afraid of it. Sometimes they will. You might be surprised. And sometimes it just makes it easier. La Plata doesn't want her. Could the other 2 children be included in our 4D cases? They are not in Colorado or receiving TANA. That's a question I'm not sure about. That might warrant some discussion. Maybe it's a possibility. All right, so good discussion about this case. Like I said, I hope you never get one of these. So we got 5 minutes. We're going to move to the last question. So go back to Menti. All right, here we go. When another state's order has been modified, which state's age of emancipation applies? The original order state, the initiating state, or the state that modified the order? Time is up. The original order state. That is correct. That is correct. That is a rule in UFSA. That is one of the non-modifiable aspects of the original order is the emancipation age. All right, I'm going to try to present this here so y'all can see. There we go. Can you guys see that on your Menti? This is a leaderboard. Kelly with a Y came in at the last on the last question. You must have got there really fast, Kelly, because you overtook Tori um, by 16 points. So you won by 16 points, Kelly. So Miss Kelly with a Y, if you can shoot me an email at the central registry. Let's see. Is that Kelly Graff? Is that you? One. All right. I just put my email in the chat. We got like 2 minutes. So, Kelly, I will send you your Amazon gift card. Um, if you guys have questions, whoa. If you have other questions, please contact us. Right now, especially since we are down a person, it's easiest if you can send a request through InAssist, through the InAssist ACES mailbox. That will get assigned to one of the techs at the central registry, so that we can get back to you. It also kind of just helps us monitor those requests a little bit. If the techs have questions, it's complicated. A lot of times they'll send it to me to weigh in on it as well. So please send us those requests. I put my email in the chat box there. Email me if you have questions. We're here for you and we're here to help you. So I hope you all had a great afternoon. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I know I had fun. And have a great rest of the conference. I'm actually out of here on leave. I'm going to go visit my new grandbaby in North Carolina. We'll see y'all later. We'll see y'all next year. Take care.
Bye, Daphne. Thank you so much for presenting for us. I hope you all learned something, and I thought it was very knowledgeable. And I don't know about y'all, but my flip flops did come off a couple of times from I saw that in the description.
All right.
Anyways, um, feel free to take a break now. The next session starts at 2:30. While you're on a break, go ahead and check out the sponsors page, and you can check the donations or the charity page to see about doing donations. And we look forward to seeing those of you back for the last session of the day. Thanks so much. Bye.